Updates. The time is 2:30. I'm Ollie Murphy. Pressure continues to mount for the Prime Minister after the government was accused by a Tory MP of trying to blackmail MPs against plotting to remove Boris Johnson. William Ragg, one of those calling on the PM to resign, claimed party rebels faced pressure and intimidation from ministers. Number 10 said it was not aware of any evidence to support the allegations. The news comes as Mr Johnson was dealt a significant blow on Wednesday after MP Christian Wakefield defected to the Labour Party, telling the Prime Minister he is incapable of leadership. So far, 6 Conservative MPs have declared no confidence in Mr Johnson, but it's thought more letters have been submitted to Sir Graham Brady, chairman of the 1922 committee. Richmond Park MP Sarah Olney told South West Londoner the Prime Minister will no longer be able to ask the country to make further sacrifices.
I think there are probably a lot of Conservatives who feel personally that they don't want to be in this situation, that they think Boris should resign. I don't think that Boris will. I think he will cling on for as long as he possibly can. And so Tory MPs are going to have to face the facts that it's up to them to get rid of him, that they're going to have to take the actions necessary. I don't think that Boris Johnson will ever be able to stand up in front of the public again with any credibility at any press conference and, demand that people take action of the sort we require them to take action in March 2020, whether it's a public health emergency, whether it's a climate change emergency, and we can see more and more of those coming along, whether it's any other kind of emergency. We cannot, the Prime Minister cannot ask people to make personal sacrifices ever again, because people just won't. They'll be like, I'm not doing what you tell me to do anymore. And who knows what else that might spill out onto. Are people, is it going to be just widespread ignoring of, I don't know, I don't even want to suggest this because the implications are too great.
Mr Johnson has urged MPs to await the findings of the independent Sue Gray report, which is due to be published next week. Lambeth Council has said new solutions are needed in the fight against HIV as the borough recorded significant decreases in testing. New data published by the UK Health and Security Agency revealed that Lambeth still has the highest prevalence of HIV in England, with more than 13 cases per 1,000 residents. Lambeth, which has long suffered the worst HIV prevalence of any local authority in England, saw tests decrease by more than 40% between 2019 and 2020. Although the drop in testing has been partly attributed to the reduction of social mixing, the UK HSA said there could be a risk of dangerous late HIV diagnoses, particularly among heterosexual adults. Commenting on the data, Councillor Lucy Caldecott said the reduction in testing will require innovative solutions to ensure London's target of 0 new HIV infections by 2030 is met. Croydon residents have been warned to expect further postal delays after a number of staff are reported to be self-isolating with COVID. It comes only a week after it was reported a number of Merton residents had not received any mail for weeks at a time, with a number alleging they were missing out on important medical documents due to the delays. The delivery office in South Croydon is one of more than 50 across the country that has been affected by COVID staff shortages, with one noting that the trackage of their post had stopped completely, while another claimed that their parcel was a month late. In a statement, Royal Mail said it had been working to get its levels of service back to normal. Now, it's loud, it's crowded, stifling hot, and it's safe to say not everyone's favourite activity. But who would have thought that a tube journey could bring passengers so much joy? Well, that's what's been happening over the last few weeks for passengers travelling across the Northern Line, as one tube driver took it upon herself to brighten up commuters' days. In one video posted on TikTok, passengers could be heard laughing as the driver welcomed them aboard the train by saying the Northern Line was a bit like the Victoria Line, only a bit more rubbish. Continuing to amuse as the train passed through South Wimbledon and Tooting Broadway, she began singing the order of the stations to the tune of 12 Days of Christmas. Passengers soon took to commenting on the video, with one calling for the driver to be given a pay rise, while others said she made everyone smile. In sport now, and Emma Raducanu has been knocked out of the Australian Open after a grueling 3 sets which saw her beaten by Danka Kevinovic. The US Open champion raced into a 3-0 lead before requiring treatment for a blister on her hand and losing the opening set. Despite a fight back which saw her win the second set, she was beaten by the world number 98 after nursing the blister for 5 days. She told BBC Sport that while it had been a challenge, the experience showed her she was tougher than she thought when playing through pain. And that's your South West London news briefing. We'll be back with the headlines at 3 o'clock.
Obviously,
Good afternoon. This is your 3 p.m. South West London update. I'm Lily Jobson with today's headlines. Prime Minister Boris Johnson says he has seen no evidence of plotters being blackmailed, despite fresh demands for him to quit over allegations of a staff party that broke COVID lockdown rules. A new accusation has been made by William Ragg, who calls on the PM to resign from Number 10. Mr. Ragg has said suspected plotters against the PM have been threatened with bad publicity and cuts to constituency funding. Colleagues who feel they have been threatened have been advised to go to the police. Tory MPs wanting to out Mr. Johnson are considering publishing a secretly recorded conversation with the Chief Whip and text messages after they accused the government of blackmail and intimidation. The opposition leader's Deputy Leader Angela Rayner described the claims as shocking, while cabinet ministers condemned the Tory rebels as attention-seeking schoolchildren. While claims have been denied by Number 10, I spoke to Emily Mitchell, owner of the Dress in Teddington, for her reaction to the story.
Obviously, we had to shut down in March 2020 when the full lockdown first came into place, and we had to remain closed as all retail did, and we were classed as a close contact, so we weren't able to open in that 2020 until June. So for us, our business was shut down. No business whatsoever. So hearing that the gatherings were happening back then, obviously, is infuriating to say the least. I think after watching all of the news bulletins, as you can imagine, we do avidly, knowing what's going on at the moment, and definitely seeing Dominic Raab on the TV this morning being questions about the ministerial code, I think it's quite clear from their sort of outset that realistically he should maybe be resigning, because I just don't think that there's any chance he didn't know what was happening in Number 10. So yeah, I think maybe his time might be up, to be honest. Well, for us, obviously, hearing the news and hearing continuing stories of these events happening in Parliament was a massive shock. I think weddings and fall into similar categories as obviously funerals and christenings. These are big life moments. So I just think shock and anger are the biggest initial emotions that come to mind after hearing it all.
Croydon Park Hotel could be soon transformed into 600 homes as developers bought it for £24.9 million. Amray Partners, the developer that bought the site, says they want to build a £200 million development of flats that will be available to rent. Croydon Council originally bought the development for £29.8 million in 2018. The pandemic pushed the hotel into administration in June 2020, which led to Croydon Council selling the building nearly £5 million less to Amray Partners. Meanwhile, Aldi has opened its first checkout-free supermarket in Greenwich. The high-tech store will use a series of cameras to follow customers, allowing shoppers to pick up products and leave without queuing to pay. The new site allows customers to buy alcohol using facial age estimation technology to check whether they appear to be over the age of 25. The move follows in the footsteps of rivals Amazon and Tesco, who have both opened checkout-free stores. The Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, has begun considering plans to give one-off payments of up to £500. It comes after energy prices are expected to double by April. Millions of people could get cash sums to help pay for rising costs of their energy bills. Talks are ongoing between Boris Johnson and the Chancellor. Experts have backed the idea of a one-off payment, despite claims from insiders who have said it is difficult to write virtual checks for millions of people when there is no mechanism to do so. Finally, the two-time Wimbledon winner, Rafael Nadal, is through to the fourth round with an impressive victory against Karen Khachanov in 4 sets. Nadal is the only former Melbourne champion remaining in the men's draw. However, his only Australian Open win was 13 years ago. Emma Raducanu was warned by her team not to play in the Australian Open second round following her defeat by Danka Govinic because of a blister on her racket hand. Thank you for listening. Tune back for your next update at 3:30 p.m.
Afternoon. This is your 3:30 p.m. Southwest London update. I'm Tom Large. Senior Tory MP Steve Baker has predicted Boris Johnson will be forced out of office over the lockdown party row. Baker told the BBC's Nick Robinson a growing rebellion from Tory MPs over gatherings in Number 10 looks like checkmate for the Prime Minister. The former Brexit minister is seen as an influential backbench figure and also said the current situation was appalling and the public are rightly furious. Allies of the PM say he has seen off a plot to remove him for the time being, but Mr Johnson has urged MPs to wait for a report by civil servant Sue Gray, which is expected next week before deciding his fate. The pressure on him is continuing to grow on the backbenches, with one of his MPs, Christian Wakeford, quitting the party to defect to Labour. The parties at Number 10, which have suggested many parliamentary figures broke lockdown rules, have sent shockwaves through the UK. To get an understanding of how those restrictions that were broken have affected the world of non-league football, I spoke to Ben Morton of Hampton and Richmond Borough Football Club to get a better picture from someone working in and around non-league football.
I think those in Parliament quite often live in their own bubble, and it's easy to forget that for many players and fans, this is the livelihood for players and the escapism for many supporters. A lot of fans literally get through their working week just to come and watch the club play at the weekends, and it's also an integral part to the heart and town of Hampton. And the club followed the rules. The leagues were shut down and had to pass some rigorous testing and sometimes crazy inspections for games to go ahead. And then you realise these people in power are abusing it. It's a bit of a joke, really. Like, for example, there's zones in football we have to adhere to, like red, amber and green, and sometimes even our photographer can't go pitch side to simply take photos of the game. And to hear that Parliament, the ones making the rules, are doing what they please is just absolutely astonishing, really. I think for the club, we could easily have been promoted in the last couple of seasons, and these have been cancelled, which is an absolute nightmare, because going to the National League gets the club to a whole new stratosphere, the potential to go professional, etc. As it is, they became null and void, and it looks like this season we're now stuck in mid-table. I think the main problem is that, obviously, being so professional, almost all our money is made from those that come through the gates. So obviously, behind closed doors, it effectively becomes unfeasible. And the government, a bit of a joke, really. So we did have funding for the last season. However, they decided, rather than just giving us the money, to make it a loan that we had to pay back. And so therefore, suddenly the club were thinking, goodness me, there's money we're going to owe in the future here if we accept it. So Hampton were basically forced into a position of null and voiding the last season, otherwise paying it back for years to come, which is basically unsustainable. And sort of, I feel like, for me, put simply, those in power in Parliament don't understand the real world and the implications COVID have on the everyday person in these sort of same professional clubs.
2 of South West London's borough councils have been ranked as some of the most complained against councils in the whole of the UK, according to the local government ombudsman report. Lambeth Council was ranked as 8th highest in the UK with 134 complaints received, whilst Croydon Council was ranked as 5th highest with 143 complaints lodged against them. Incredibly, nearly a third of Lambeth Council's 134 complaints concerned housing, with the Lambeth Council being ranked in the top 5 for most complaints received about housing for the past 5 years consecutively. Croydon Council's complaints, whilst higher in their total number, were more evenly distributed across categories, with their most complained being adult social care at 25 complaints. Education and housing were tied as both of their second highest complaint, with 23 each. An 88-year-old grandmother who lost the sight in her left eye has become the first person in the UK to detect signals in it using a revolutionary new bionic chip. The woman suffers from geographic atrophy, which is the most common form of dry age-related macular degeneration. This causes a blind spot to develop in the middle of the eye, and it is estimated that the condition affects more than 5 million people worldwide. The implant was done at Moorfields Eye Hospital as part of a Europe-wide clinical trial. In a statement, she said that she hoped the implant would allow her to do the things she loved again, and that after losing the sight in her left eye had stopped her from doing so. This included activities like gardening, playing indoor bowls, and painting with watercolours. On to sport now, and Putney's Joe Salisbury and men's doubles partner Rajiv Ram into the second round of the Australian Open after a 6-3, 6-3 victory in the first round. They are now set up to face New Zealand's Marcus Daniel and Denmark's Frederik Nielsen in the next round of the competition. Also in the Australian Open, Rafa Nadal continued his journey in the competition by beating Karen Khachanov and claiming his place in the fourth round. Harlequins back Oscar Beard and flanker Will Evans have agreed long-term contract extensions with the Premiership champions. Beard, 20, and 24-year-old Evans follow teammates Alex Dombrandt, Luke Northmore, Sam Riley, and Will Edwards in agreeing new deals at the Stoop. Thank you for listening. Your next update will be at 4 p.m.
Good afternoon and welcome to South West Londoner. I'm Honor Cockcroft and this is your 4 p.m. update. Rebel Conservative MPs, known as pork pie plotters, are considering publishing secretly recorded, heated conversations with the Chief Whip and text messages with alleged blackmail from supporters of the Prime Minister. Senior Conservative William Ragg earlier claimed the plotters were faced with intimidation for calling on Boris Johnson to step down, which he has denied. This news comes after revelations that Downing Street hosted multiple parties during lockdown. Earlier, I spoke to Rob Wilkinson, founder of the Lambeth-based PE company Moving Matters, about how he has reacted to the news of Number 10 partying whilst the country was plunged into lockdown.
I mean, I find it frankly ludicrous that the leader of our country, who has essentially come up with these rules that we've all been abiding by over the last 2 years, has failed in his role of as leader to follow them and to be ignorant of the fact that he was supposed to be following them and he was unaware of what they were. It's just unbelievable, and the repeated lying by Boris Johnson is something I find very, very difficult to digest as somebody who has run a business, employing over 20 people over the past 2 years, which has been hugely challenging. And we work in education, and so the number of COVID cases and experiences that we've had have been very prevalent to the way that the business has been run during that period of time. So, me, like many others, obviously find that very, very difficult to accept that there's one rule for us and another rule for them. I mean, I find...
In the latest coronavirus update, the UK Health Security Agency has designated the Omicron variant sublineage known as BA.2 as a variant under investigation. Just 53 sequences of the sublineage have been identified in the UK since the 10th of January, less than 99% of all Omicron cases, and there is no known evidence that the variant is resistant to current vaccines. However, the health body said further analysis into the new and less identifiable strain will be undertaken, as 2,093 sequences have been recorded in 22 countries across the world. And in southwest London, brisk winter walks are opening up to all, as Kew Gardens have introduced a new £1 entry ticket for people receiving universal credit or pension credit. While standard peak entry to the Wild Botanic Gardens is £19.50, this substantial price drop aims to improve accessibility and help those qualified to enjoy all that Richmond's green spaces have to offer. The World Heritage Site boasts the largest and most diverse botanical and mycological collections in the world and was voted one of the most Instagrammable attractions in the country. Moving into the sporting world, and defending champion of the Australian Open Naomi Osaka has lost to unseeded American Anisimova. In the men's draw, 5-time finalist Rafael Nadal is hoping to match his number of Wimbledon titles as he proceeds to the next stage of the slam after beating Karen Khachanov 3-1 earlier today. And hopes for a British win down under remain fixed on Heather Watson's doubles campaign with Italian partner Jasmine Paolini, after Emma Raducanu's loss last night amid blister blight. On a day of disappointment and joy for Britain at Melbourne Park, Andy Murray also lost yesterday in straight sets to qualifier Tara Daniel, whilst his older brother Jamie sailed through to the third round of the men's doubles. And in Twickenham, major doubt has been cast over Owen Farrell's availability for the opening Six Nations game after a fresh injury blow. A statement from his club Saracens said the England centre has sustained a new injury during training after a 2-month absence due to an ankle surgery. Having been ruled out of Sunday's European Challenge Cup match against London Irish, it is yet to be known whether Farrell will be able to captain England in their first Six Nations match against Scotland on February the 5th. Thank you for listening. Head over to our website, www.swlondoner.co.uk, or check out our socials for more of the latest news.